Hi, my name is Jay Nelson. I'm the editor and publisher of Design Tools Monthly and the editorial director of Planet Quark. And what I'm going to show you today is a little effect that I like to call a mystery shadow. And you can do it in Quark Express 7 and above. I'm in Quark Express 8 right here. And what you're creating with this effect is an illusion of a shadow without anything casting it. So for example, this text box right here actually has text in it, and all you see is the shadow. And we know it actually has text in it because we can type more characters in there and they show up and the shadow changes. So how do we do this? Let me go to a different page and we'll build it from scratch. We just create the text, shadow, and we'll format it in some way that is going to look good for this. So let's try Helvetica New black condensed. Okay, and we'll make it nice and big. Here we go. Okay, so let's see what we want to do now. What we have is a text box and we want to apply a drop shadow to it. So to do that, we just click on the drop shadow tab of the measurements palette, click on apply drop shadow, and then mess with it until it looks something like what we like. I like to give it a skew of about 40 degrees or so, and then blur it just a little bit to give it that blurry shadowy look. So what do we have now? We have some text, we have a shadow, we need to get rid of the text. Well, the way to do that is to select the text and make it 0% opacity. We click on the Character Attributes tab of the Measurements palette, and over here we see that it's black at 100%, and it's also 100% opaque. If we drag that down to 0, suddenly the text is gone, but so is the shadow. Why is that? Well, there's a little checkbox over here in the Drop Shadow tab that says Inherit Opacity. What that means is that if it's turned on, whatever opacity you have for the item that's casting the shadow will be used for the shadow itself. If you turn it off, it means that no matter what opacity you set the actual item for, the shadow is going to have whatever opacity it says right in here, in this case 75%. So just to show you what I mean, if we go back to the text, character attributes tab here, and we change the opacity of this to something a little bit higher so we can see the letters. Oops, got to select the text first. So we can see the letters. Okay, now we have a partially opaque bunch of text, and you can actually see the shadow through it a little bit, which is kind of a neat effect in itself. But what we're trying to do again is take that opacity down to 0 so that all we have now is the shadow. So let's go through that one more time. You create your text, and by the way, this can be used on text, it can be used on rules, it can be used on pictures that have clipping paths, anything you'd like, any item in Quark Express this will work for. You give it a drop shadow, you make sure that inherit opacity is turned off, and then you make the shadow look the way you want it to. Then you go to your Character Attributes tab and set the opacity of the text all the way down to 0. The result is a shadow without an item that cast it. And by the way, when you're done with that and you think you've got what you like, but maybe you want to play with the shadow a little bit, you can always go back and do that right in here. Maybe we want to make it a little bit more blurry, maybe we want to make it a little more angled. Again, all we're doing is affecting the shadow in the Drop Shadow tab of the Measurements palette. And that's it.